urgent today. So we have to come together to create plans to address the wounds that so many in our community are carrying and have been carrying, and replace them with compassion, connection, opportunity, and justice. Chief Schroeder is now going to give an update on yesterday's activities. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor Fisher. First, I would like to start by saying how grateful I am that our 2 officers who were shot during last night's protests are doing well and will survive their injuries. Last night's situation could have been so much worse for our officers and for the people who were protesting when the gunfire rang out. Major Aubrey Gregory, who is the commander of our Special Operations Division and was leading efforts on the ground last night, was treated and released from University Hospital for a gunshot wound to his hip. Major Gregory joined the department in February of 1999 and has done a tremendous job the past several months as one of the leaders of our protest efforts. In fact, some say he may be the bedrock of our protest efforts. Officer Robinson Desroches was shot in the abdomen last night, having to undergo surgery as a result of his injuries. He is in stable condition and expected to recover. Officer Desroches joined the department in March of 2019 and works in our 2nd Division. Again, we are extremely fortunate these 2 officers will recover. At this time, Lorenzo Johnson has been charged with 2 counts of assault to first degree and 14 counts of wanton endangerment, all directed against police officers. In addition to these officers, we have reports of a police sergeant being injured after being struck by a protester's baton, a sergeant who suffered a knee injury while arresting a resisting individual, and an officer who was exposed to blood and spit after a subject spit upon him during the protest. As for the events of last night, there were several instances of unlawful behavior where police needed to intervene during the protest activities, including damage to property, such as businesses along Bardstown Road, the moving of barricades and barriers, restricting traffic, and damage to a public works vehicle that was blocking the roadway. Due to the fires being set at the courthouse and along Jefferson Square Park, we needed to declare an unlawful assembly in the area just after 8 p.m. prior to the curfew taking place. We made several clear announcements to disperse prior to police moving in to clear the park. Throughout the night, we made 127 arrests in various locations, including the Highlands and downtown, that were protest-related. As the night went on, there were several instances of looting outside of the downtown area. We had reports of 16 incidents of looting throughout the evening in our 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 6th, and 7th divisions. Areas include Broadway, Preston, Outer Loop, and Poplar Level Road. As a reminder, the curfew remains in effect tonight and tomorrow from 9 p.m. to 6:30 a.m., and we encourage everyone to be lawful and peaceful as they go through their protest activities. I would like to give a special thanks to our state and federal partners who have helped us out during these events. These include the Kentucky State Police, the Kentucky National Guard, and a variety of other state and local partners. The Kentucky National Guard has been providing us assistance in securing government buildings and other locations throughout the city, as well as several of our other partner agencies. Thank you.
Okay, we will now take questions. Again, I want to remind reporters to please put your questions in the chat area and identify the media that you're with, and we'll get to as many as we can. The first question is for Chief Schroeder from Jess Clark from WFPL. Jess asks, were there protests on, her first question is, why is Johnson being charged with assault and not attempted murder?
The investigation is still early and ongoing. I would have to speak with our Public Integrity Unit investigators to determine that answer. I don't have that at this time.
The second question, also from Jess Clark, is, were there protests on Preston Highway and Poplar Level Road? Why do you believe those burglaries are connected to protests?
There was looting on Preston Highway and Poplar Level Road. Whether that's directly related to the protest or simply people taking advantage of the situation, I cannot advise at this time.
Lucas Allbeck from the Courier Journal asks, who is handling duties usually taken care of by Major Gregory as he recovers?
So during incidents like this, we go through what's called the incident management system and the incident command structure. These are national standards for handling crises, and rank and your position are not relevant. It is your skills and your abilities that dictate what position you are in. So in this case, while Major Gregory was leading those efforts, Lieutenant Colonel Josh Judah has taken over since Major Gregory is injured.
And Andrea Ash of WHAS 11 asked, how many or what percentage were from out of town residents not in Louisville?
I have that information at this time. It's something we can get you later.
Next question is for Mayor Fisher. John Charlton with WHAS 11 says, last week you announced police reforms during the announcements of the settlement. Where do those reforms stand? Which ones have begun? And why is it important for protesters to understand what they will mean during these tense times?
Well, the ongoing goal to increase police community legitimacy obviously is very important, not just here in Louisville, but all over the country, so that people understand that there is a bridge that's taking place. Part of those reforms is building relationships between police officers and their communities, like the credits for police officers living within impacted communities, integrating social workers with our police department. So those are programs that need to be underway. The search warrant process and how that's executed, and the clearance of a commanding officer and a matrix for search warrants also are a very important part of this. So we can give an update on each of those reforms and the progress and the timeline that we have for them moving forward.
Okay, we have some additional questions for Chief Schroeder. In regards to yesterday's decision, has any further action been taken against Joshua James, who applied for the no-knock warrant?
That investigation remains ongoing. It is being handled by the FBI. It is still in the investigatory stages.
Okay. And Laura Ellis from WFEL asks, what is the difference between looting and regular burglary?
Burglary is any time you enter or remain unlawfully in a building or dwelling to commit a crime. So looting, in essence, is burglary, but looting is specifically what we saw. That is the type of behavior we saw. Burglary is the crime.
And Chief, I missed part of Andrea Ash's question. She's from WHAS 11. She asked, what are the range of charges?
I don't have that information at this time. It's something we can get you.
Eugene Ansley from CBS News asked, of the 127 arrests, are you able to tell us how many of them are outsiders, not residents? I'm sorry, I think you've already answered that. John Elegant of the New York Times asked Chief Schroeder, how would you describe the mood and feeling of your officers?
So obviously this is a tense and stressful time for our officers. They're dealing with the protest activity. It's been a very emotional time for our officers in our city as we go through the Attorney General's opinion. For all of us, it is a very tense and emotional time. I think our officers are in good spirits given the conditions that we're in the city right now. Of course, they're concerned for the well-being of our city, of our other officers, and for themselves.
And this is a question for Mayor Fisher. Does Mayor Fisher welcome the offer of federal support from President Trump? And if so, what type of support do you need?
I know the president talked with the governor last night. We feel like we have the resources that we need on the ground right here in Louisville.
Wave has asked us to spell the name of the officer injured. That is, I put that in the chat area already. So if you go back up, you'll find that. And I'm sorry. Scrolling questions here. Keep going. Mayor, Andrea Ash of WHAS 11 asked, can you tell us what the pending contract offer submitted by FOP, what does it include? Is the question.
I can tell you that the FOP and the city are at the bargaining table working back and forth, and until that's complete, that information will not be released.
We have additional questions for Chief Schroeder. Eugene Ansley from CBS asked, can you tell us about the weapon used against the officers last night and how it was obtained by the shooter?
That is part of the ongoing investigation. The weapon was a handgun.
Another question from Lauren Adams. According to arresting documents, it was a witness that identified the alleged shooter. Was that an officer or a protester?
Again, that's part of the investigation, and it's a little too early to disclose that.
I would expect the next answer to be the same. The Associated Press asked for details about the shooting, any motive for the shooter. Was he a protester?
Again, that's part of the ongoing investigation and premature to release.
Chief at Courier Journal's Lucas Allback asked, will there be a greater police and or National Guard presence in the city today and tonight following last night's shooting?
So we adjust our response every night based on the conditions we've seen. I would expect you to see the response tonight very similar to the response you saw last night.
Kate Howard from the Kentucky Center for Investigative Journalism asked, what differentiates the behavior as looting to law enforcement? Is it because there are protests downtown at the same time?
No, it's just the behavior of a lot of people going into a business or other location to remove property.
Also, Chief, WFPL, another question about lootings. How do you know lootings outside protest areas weren't just random burglaries?
So we don't know whether they were protest related or not, or that they were merely people taking advantage of the situation.
WFPL's Jeff Clark asked, based on what happened last night, do you believe the preparatory measures, barricades, et cetera, were effective?
The barricades and other measures we took last night were put there to ensure public safety. One of the primary things we are concerned about when dealing with large crowds like we see during protests is that interaction between vehicles and pedestrians. You've seen that several times during the protests where protesters have engaged vehicles, vehicles have struck protesters. There have been other disputes between protesters and people in vehicles. It's just not a safe practice to have vehicles and pedestrians under these circumstances mixing.
Communication with some protest or activist groups. Are you aware of any planned demonstrations tonight or into the week?
I think we can anticipate a variety of protest activities through tonight, through the weekend, and continuing on for some time.
Kate Howard asked, was last night the highest number of protest-related arrests since the demonstrations began in May?
I don't have that information, but we can get that to you.
New York Times is asking about Steve Bittenbender is asking for the spelling of the accused shooter's name. LMPD will provide that after this briefing. Chief Johnny Diaz from the New York Times is asking if you can tell any more about Lorenzo Johnson's occupation, where he's from. Did he say anything at the time of his arrest?
As for any statements he made, that's part of the ongoing investigation and premature to release. We can get you some additional details about him later.
CBS News' Arturo Rhymes asked if officers Mattingly and Cosgrove have been returned to active duty.
Sergeant Mattingly and Officer Cosgrove are still on administrative leave.
This question is for, I think it's for Mayor Fisher, but Chief may need to weigh in here. Has the city hired any private security firms to help with protests? If so, which groups, and are they in plain clothes?
There's nothing of that sort that's taking place in our city.
More questions for the chief. Laura Ellis from WFPL asks, aren't there burglaries all the time? How do you know these were taking advantage of protests?
We don't know if they were just taking advantage of the protest. We don't know if they were related to the protest. It is unusual, however, to see a large number of people go into a business and remove a lot of property. That typically signifies looting.
Question for Mayor Fisher from Andrea Ash of WHAS 11 asks, do you plan to release records in connection to the Taylor death investigation that may or may not have been previously denied since the grand jury has now released a decision?
And what we're doing is working with the Attorney General and both the FBI to understand what we can release so it doesn't interfere with any of the ongoing investigations. What we want to do is get as much of this information out as soon as we can. There does need to be some redaction of names to protect individuals' identities in some of these cases. So that process has started, and we hope to be able to announce further information on that soon.
And Mayor Arturo Rhymes from CBS asks, is there any consideration to push for changing department's use of force justification standards?
The chief has already instituted some of those policies several months or so ago. So with that, I can ask the chief if you want to comment on that.
We constantly evaluate and review our use of force procedures. We've done things recently like implementing a duty to intervene for our officers, changing the way we use tear gas and pepper balls, putting better guidelines in place. It's something that's constantly evolving. We've had conversations with members of the public, members of Metro Council, and other members of government regarding what the public would like to see out of our use of force policies.
We'll take one more question. This is from Kate Howard for the mayor, or I'm sorry, for the chief. Did federal agencies make any arrests that you're aware of?
I'm not aware of any arrests by federal agencies. I would defer to those specific federal agencies for any information on their arrests.
Thank you. And reporters have any other questions, you can email those to me at jean.porter@louisvilleky.gov. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us this morning. And again, I'm asking everybody today to, if you're going to demonstrate, please do so in the daylight hours. Come out, be peaceful, be heard. Moving forward as a city obviously requires that we listen to each other. We respect the differences that we have, but we work toward a better future that we can own together. Let's use this space to heal as best we can. That's how we avoid tragedies like this coming together in the future. Obviously, this is an extremely important moment, not just for our city, but for our country as well. And I urge everybody to focus on that end game where we can have equity, liberty, justice for all. That's the goal that we should all be able to agree on. Thanks for joining us this morning.